What do you think?
It would, Simon, but there are a lot of people now in these committees. A number could mean a handful or less. So to me, those minutes broadly reflect what Chairman Yellen said last week. Their Fed is going to continue to taper, $10 billion a meeting. They'll end late third quarter, early Q4. Nothing's changed post these minutes.
We obviously have hawks in the committee who've been talking about the possibility of raising rates for a while. And in fact, we have export and import prices that show, when you take out the commodity components, that there's inflation accelerating. The PPI today showed a lot of acceleration in inflation. But because wages are held in check, there's not much chance of getting through to the CPI anytime soon, really. So I think that's what we're looking at. We don't really have inflation on the doorstep. On the other hand, we have the other anomalies in the economy. And there's a question about whether all of the weather effects are really due to weather. I mean, there have been a number of stories written about how the economy has problems quite apart from weather, and that's going to take a while to sift out because as weather continues to be a problem. So even next month, we're going to be talking about weather effects.
Yeah, I think a lot of it you have to attribute to the weather, essentially. We actually got an interesting data point from the Architectural Billing Index yesterday, which actually ticked up a little bit, which tends to be a better leading indicator in terms of construction activity, essentially. So I think we're still generally going through the soft patch in terms of the weather. The data was probably a little stronger a few months ago before the weather inducement, and now we're sitting a bit of an echo effect in that. But I think you can attribute that largely to that.
From the weather, not too much, maybe 0.2, 0.3, 0.4%. But I'll take a different take on the weather. I think that weather, it's more than weather, because the numbers that I look at the most carefully are the single-family permits. And those have flattened over the last 6 months, but have dropped the last 2 months. Those are not affected all that much by weather. So there's something more going on than just weather.
The answer to that question is that there must be low demand. That's what we're seeing. So we saw a huge spike in demand last year. It's why we were so confident that the market had bottomed, and we're not seeing the same thing this year. So even though there aren't many homes for sale, there aren't many buyers looking for them either.
A lot of the emerging economies have made changes to monetary policy. India would be a good case in point in that regard, and some substantive reforms to fiscal policy and their macro economy. And so I think those things will reap benefit. It's not going to be easy. As the U.S. Begins to normalize interest rates, global interest rates will rise, and that will put pressure on emerging economies that have current account deficits. But I think they're much better prepared today for that possibility and that likelihood than they were a year ago. I'm most worried when I scan the emerging world and think about who's most at risk in this kind of rising rate environment. Brazil comes to the top of mind. They've had some significant difficulty managing through this, and I'm not sure their policy is where it needs to be as interest rates begin to rise. South Africa is another worrisome economy, and perhaps even Turkey, in part because of political reasons. But Indonesia is probably the best case. They've done a marvelous job of kind of getting this under control, and I think they'll manage through this quite well.